it's one of those passages that forever has created a lot of discussion and conversation and encouragement to identify ourselves. Are you a Martha or a Mary? I'm not sure that's exactly the message we are to take away from this. But it is also clear to me that without people who do some things, without some people who prepare a meal and attend to those hospitality details, oftentimes there's little on the table to share. Even our worship services, and we want people to come. You've probably had hectic and busy weeks. There's a lot of things that you're dealing with, that people come to church to be at peace, renewed, strengthened for whatever the day or the week ahead may present you with. But the fact of the matter is that it takes some preparation even for worship. My husband went and got water and coolers and ice and attended to all of those details so we could offer that as a gift of hospitality on what is not nearly as hot a Sunday outside as we have experienced in the prior days. But it takes some effort, some work. The deacons have prepared, the ushers were here, even making sure the fans are on, the windows are open, that we stay alert to whether there are storms brewing and windows need to be closed. It takes effort and work to make a church run, even though what we're called to do is to be, to take that deep, renewing breath, to let the distractions melt away, and to hear the message that God has for us, to offer our prayers up to God, and to be strengthened by the music we hear and the company and support of one another. Max Lucado, the author, writes, every church needs a Martha. And then he says, change that. Every church needs 100 Marthas. Sleeves rolled up and ready. They keep the pace for the church. Because of Marthas, the church budgets get balanced. Church buildings get repaired and cleaned. Babies get bounced on loving knees in the nursery. You don't appreciate Marthas until a Martha is missing. And all the Marys of the church start to find the keys to lock the doors, turn off the lights, and turn off the fans. And I think there's some truth to that. I had an experience yesterday. I was asked to do the funeral service for one of our church members, Arnie Biarno. Although the reception following the service was not held here at the church, but was held at the home that the Biarnos have lived in for over 40 years, there was a wonderful reception back at the house, and I was invited to join family, friends, and neighbors. And many of those friends and family and neighbors had made sure that there was food and drink, hospitality. As we were leaving from the cemetery, Pam Biarno, they had been married for 48 years. He had struggled with a terminal cancer over these last weeks, and it had been a very difficult time for her. And she said, the hardest thing is going to be walking away from the cemetery, knowing that that's really the end of this part of the journey, and going back to my home alone. That sense that it is at that moment when hospitality and care is so vitally important and so deeply cherished. What our hospitality committee does in this church when we offer a reception following services here, so that family can have that moment to know that they are cared for and supported and held in that kind of loving embrace, and food provided, nourishment for body as well as spirit. We can't ever really understand how very important that is. What an important piece of the ministry we do it is. And although in the process of doing it, You know, we have too few people who sign up to be part of that hospitality team, and sometimes it seems like the work is a wee bit overwhelming. And there is work involved. There are things to purchase, and sandwiches and other things to make, and to see that it's all done so that it looks nice, so that it's well prepared, so it shows a level of care. We bring out the silver and we wait on people. It's a Martha kind of ministry. But it's what makes our Mary kinds of ministries possible. Because deep in that same moment, a word of love and support and care is being shared as well. It allows us to be quiet at a time when some in our church family need that quiet, comforting space because someone else is picking up the work. And so really what this passage perhaps is inviting us to think about is balance. And it's often been said that the Gospel of Luke pairs up stories. In many cases, Luke pairs stories where the main characters are men and pairs them with a story where the main characters are women, which may suggest something about the early church that cherished Luke's gospel. That early church that involved both men and women not just out in the kitchen preparing meals, but as a part of the worshiping congregation, the learning congregation, the being congregation as well. And so last week we had that story that has the more masculine characters, the Good Samaritan, whose message really is go and do. You know, you can't just say you love God and love your neighbor and do nothing. You need to do acts of kindness, do those acts of compassion, go the extra mile. And this passage, which suggests sometimes you also need to sit and listen and be. You need to enjoy the presence of Christ and not let yourself be so worried, so distracted that you never can be at peace. And so you never open yourself to hear what Jesus wants us to hear and know at our very heart. And so I think that this passage was not meant to be just directed, okay, you're either supposed to fix the meals or go to church. No, it's meant to be seen as part of a whole. Live lives that are balanced. You can't keep working if you never renew yourself, if you're never centered and anchored in what's important, because then the work gets frustrating and it gets annoying and you are tempted toward burnout and saying, I'm doing it all by myself and I'm tired of it and I'm just going to quit. Sometimes it's that time of renewal and time of perspective that allows us to say, right now, I don't want to be on a committee. Right now, I need what the worship offers me, what a small group may offer me, because that's what's going to give me the energy and the focus and the perspective to keep doing what God also calls me to do in Christ Jesus. Thanks be to God.